What's up? This is Brian Funk, and I want to take you through my new track, Tell Me the Answer. I'm an Ableton certified trainer and Berklee Online instructor, and the author of the 5-Minute Music Producer, 365 Music Making Activities. And I want to show you how I came up with the ideas for this song, where it began, how I developed it, and finally finished it. And I hope that you'll find some tips and tricks and techniques along the way that will help you finish your next track. This track originated from my monthly music mission with the Music Production Club, where every single month we make a new piece of music. There's some prompts, some challenge, some downloads I give you, and we all go at it together. And for this particular month, it's very special. I'm using these Troubadeck cards from Charlie McCarran. And this is a deck of cards with a bunch of chord progressions on it. And you can draw a card and use it to write your next track. Interpret it however you like. There are some instructions if you want some more guidance. I'm using the 7 of Hearts because this is a very special card. Charlie made this card especially for my dog Vera, who I lost about 1.5 years ago. So it's a tribute to her, and I wanted to use this with the Music Production Club. So we all got these chords and used it to make music. And a lot of us chose themes of best friends, losing someone you care about, paying tribute to somebody you may have lost along the way. The theme of this card is perseverance, and it's what we used to get this track started. And it all began during one of our music production live meetings over Zoom. And during these meetings, we get together, talk about the prompt and what we want to do with our music for a few minutes. And then we spend 45 minutes with the cameras off, just making music. We come back later and share what we've done and give each other constructive feedback, help each other solve problems we may be running into, and then we can go on and do this on our own. And then we meet a couple weeks later and share our results. It's a really inspiring way to make music not only with other people, but in a really small time crunch. And that's exactly how this particular track was born. So right now I have a kind of early version of this song that I want you to see here. I started first with the drums. I wanted to get the beat down so I had something to play along with. And I was feeling these kind of like slow grooves of like 90s alternative rock. Bands like Smashing Pumpkins, Weezer, Nirvana had it too. So I started playing a beat on this kit that I've saved of some sounds I really like. It's just a nice rock kit. So I started with a beat that went like this. That was the basis of the verse beat. Got that down. All I had to do was hit the capture button, and live captured my performance, put it into a clip, and guess the tempo, which happened to be 143 beats per minute. So what I love about capture is you don't have to even worry about the tempo. You just play something, live figures it out for you, and you move on. It's much easier than playing along with a metronome, and it also captures just some of those human qualities to our performance. So if I just pull this up and zoom in a little bit on what I played, you can see my timing is not perfect here, but it feels kind of nice. So if I were to just play this beat here, let you hear it. This is what I recorded that night. Right? So I've got my verse part. Next, I just decided I'm gonna make the next part, the chorus. So I really just love the sound of these big cymbals. So the part I came up with was and I wanted to do something that I've heard Rick Beato talk about when he was speaking about Dave Grohl playing on Smells Like Teen Spirit. And it was this sort of delay that he uses when he comes to the downbeat. So instead of just starting, playing the song where we just try to play really in time, I'm putting a little bit of a hesitation on those big hits. So it's very subtle. Just a little laid back feeling. And let me open that up. And right here we can see those hits. And you'll notice those big, they're all kind of late, especially the crashes are behind. I would never program that this way, but by performing it by hand, I can really get a sense of the feeling. And I've noticed that in these especially slower rock songs, delaying those hits can really offer the groove in the music. Even playing with my own band, I've experimented behind the drums, delaying those hits and letting them really feel that. And that's when the other guys start moving and grooving a little bit more. So a lot of groove and feeling in our music involves imperfect timing. The third part I came up with is a nice halftime feel. And I knew I wanted that for some rhythmic contrast. I like to start sometimes with just coming up with a couple different grooves. This way, I have parts to work off of. I can come up with one idea and then move to the next idea on that same instrument. This avoids the issue of building up a single loop way too fast. One of the big problems I run into a lot with my songwriting is I write out the first section of my song, develop all the layers and the parts, and it becomes this really big orchestrated section that when I try to make the next part, now it sounds all puny. There's just maybe a beat or just one instrument that I'm starting with. And it's very hard to enjoy those parts as much as the part that I just finished sculpting and crafting into this huge epic thing. So I like to start with a couple small ideas. At this point in the process, I really don't know if I'm going to stick with any of these, but it's what I got and I have to move on, because remember, this is during our live meeting where I've got about 45 minutes to come up with something. So there's not a lot of time to question my movements. So once I had my drum parts recorded, I then wanted to get some guitar going. So I grabbed my Fender Jag-Stang, which is got some humbucker. This is the guitar designed by Kurt Cobain, so it's perfect for that 90s grunge alternative sound that I wanted to go for here. And I turned to my Troubadour card. And you'll see these first few lines here, C major 7 and E minor, are what I focused in on for the verse. And I wound up coming with a part that sounded like this. And that's what I used as the basis of the part. I took the C major 7, played it here, and I also did, instead of an E minor, wound up with an E minor 7, E, B, D. I just like the kind of longing that that D had compared to... That sounds a little too resolved. It's not a happy resolve, but... It just didn't have the longing I'm looking for, because in this part of the song, it's a verse. I'm kind of posing the question that's going to be asked throughout the song, and it's got this unresolved feeling that I really think that that note has compared to that. Sounds a little too at home and at rest. There's more leaning, and it doesn't land on the C or the root like it would. It lands on that leading tone too in the C major 7. So we're not really ever at home, and I thought that fit really well with this track. So I ran my guitar directly into my preamp and compressor, and right from there it went directly into Amplitude. And I found a preset that I thought just sounded really cool with this particular guitar. I know that as a guitar player I should probably be really loyal to physical amplifiers, and I love my amps that I have, but they just don't have that tone. And I was able to dial it up really fast in Amplitude and very happy with it. So I went with it. I'm not here at this point in the process to nitpick over these little details. I'm just trying to get ideas down and move forward. I'm trying to be creative. I'm trying to keep coming up with ideas before the critical part of my brain can kick in. So this is what the two sound like together. So got that guitar part down and then immediately went to the next part. I'm not building out the sections yet. I'm just trying to get the ideas so that I have some skeletal structure to then put meat on. So it's like you're building your skeleton, then your bones. I'm not gonna build the skeleton of my arm and then the meat and then the skin and then have to do it for the other parts of my body, just like a song. We're gonna do one thing at a time. And when we look at our card here, we got A minor and E minor, and that wound up being my bridge part, but I skipped ahead and I used the F and the E and the F and the G, and I came up with a part that was straighter now, so I want a little contrast to this sort of floaty kind of thing. And I went to the F, and now I'm playing eighth note power chords. So I do that a couple times, and on the last time I go to the G. And that leads us nicely back when I go to the verse again. The G is a nice, that's the 5, so that's gonna make us wanna go to the 1. But the 1 in this case is not so resolved. It's much more longing there. And you can hear that right here. So that leaves me with this A minor and E minor part, and that's gonna be the bridge. And on the bridge, we went half time, so that's another form of contrast, and I wound up playing just these big chords like this. See, A minor to E minor, A minor, and this has a nice little whammy bar type action that I'm playing with right here. So A minor to E minor twice, but then it goes to E7. On the third one, I go to the E7 instead of the E minor. And by going to the E7, I've got a lot of tension. And it leads really nicely back into the F chord of the chorus. To give the song some foundation, I then turned to the bass, and I brought up my trusty Fender Bass 6. Absolutely love this bass. It's a 6-string bass guitar tuned exactly like an electric guitar, E, A, D, G, B, E. And it's got a thin neck. It plays like a guitar, feels like a guitar, but sounds like a bass, and it's got some in-between land in there. So I wanted this to have a little bit of a different rhythm than that guitar part, so I'll let you hear what the bass sounds like with everything so far. So the bass is kind of holding something more steady in line with the drums. And I'll bring it to the next section too. So now things get straighter and together. It's a contrast that we have in this new part. And that's something I really wanted to mention about these different sections, is the importance of contrast. You need to have things change. So if I were to go back to this first part, it's quieter, there's more space, there's more syncopation. When we get to the next part in the chorus, things get straight and louder, played harder, thicker guitars. And I'll take you to the bridge. Now we're in a halftime feel. Things have kind of gotten floaty and they feel different. There's also gonna be other layers that come in after I start producing this song more to give more contrast, so that we have some instruments playing at one time that aren't playing at other parts. This would come back to the chorus, right? I put in another guitar as well. This is just to thicken it up a little bit. Right now it's a little bit louder. Back to the verse. Cool. So at that point, I've really got the ideas together. Once I get about this far into a song where I have a few ideas going, now it's really important for me to get over it to the arrangement view. So if you look, it's very blocky. I just took these parts here, right? So let's just say these were the parts that I came up with. I'm selecting them all, I'm holding down as I click and hold, and I hit the tab button, and then I just drop them right into the arrangement view and stretch them out for however long they need to go. So that's just something I kind of do by feel. And if we look over here, there's about 24 bars right here that I decided on, and there's an 8-bar intro, and then when the singing comes in, there's another few bars. And then I just start subtracting things away, right? So like over here, I start out the song, it kicks in, and this is our intro. We got the jag stang going. Not this one though, I'm gonna hide that one. And then I just took this little section and disabled it with the 0 button. So you can hit 0 to disable clips. I like to work that way because it just gives me the option to bring it back real fast. But right now is where I'm singing, so I want things to drop out here. But that's about as far as I'm going with these ideas. I bring the guitar back in later in the verse. But then the next thing is, let's go to the chorus. And it's the same process. I'm just dragging these. You can see the choruses are all red. I click them all, hold shift, and then I tab over to the next section, just put them right where I want to. So this one right here. And I got my chorus here, and then I do another verse, which is I think about the same amount of time as the first one. We had the little intro, then it gets quiet, and then the guitar comes back. And then instead of going to the chorus, I decided to go on to the bridge, which is right here. And if I bring you to the last part of the bridge, this is the A into the E7. And we get to our final chorus, which kind of rides out for a while, and we end up with a last verse. By the end of that zoom, that's all I had. So it's just a rough sketch of the song. I've taken my ideas and just dragged them out in the arrangement. I don't exactly know if this is going to be the final arrangement, but it gives me something now to work on other parts over. If you want to get out of the loop, you got to get out of session view as soon as you can, basically. I love collecting my ideas in here, but if I want a song to get finished, it has to wind up here in arrangement view. So I'm going to then just mock out an arrangement that I can always change. And in fact, I do change this arrangement later, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. So the next time I open up this session, I decide I want to add some synths. And I had some time to think about it a little bit. And I've got instruments that I've made with my dog Vera's voice. And I turn them into synths. And you can download those for free. I've got them the Talking Dog synth. And I've also got the Everyday Sounds pack, which has even more sounds, as well as a lot of other everyday synthesizer sounds. I chose this Everyday Dog voice sound, which sounds like this. And I'll let you just take a peek inside here. And I'm gonna show you what this sounds like. I'll just drag this onto an audio track so you can hear the exact moment that I got from her. I think it's right here. That's just her getting excited about going outside, but it has kind of a pitch to it. And I turned that into this instrument here. So that sounds like the original note. And it's run through some saturator, some delay. I think this sound was initially made with Ableton's Note app on the iOS. Because of the way these effects are put together, this looks like something that would have happened with Note. But it's got a cool vocal quality to it, and it's her. So I've got it in here. I'll let you hear what it sounds like when it comes in. It's meant to sort of interact with that guitar as the guitar is kind of resting and the guitar. So there's like a play here that's going on, a back and forth. The Vera voice comes back in later in the chorus. So that melody. And what I wound up doing was doubling that, actually tripling that with two other synths. One is my Rectangles guitar synth here, which is another pack you can download for free. It's the sound I used on my album Rectangles on a lot of the songs. And it's a wavetable run through Ableton's guitar effects. So you got this, all kinds of stuff, the pedal, we got a flux puncher. Okay, so that's something with the limiter there. And it's coming out of cabinet. And I've also got an echo device. So this was used all over the place on my record Rectangles, and I love it. It sounds kind of like a guitar, kind of like a synth. And the other one was from my 80s VHS pack. This is a synth from the Moog Realistic, which is actually sitting right behind me here. This is run through VCR tape. And it's also got a roar at the end. Roar's doing a lot on this sound. But you're also getting that VHS tape, the kind of inconsistency in the pitch, and just the kind of flavor that you get by recording stuff onto a VHS tape. and then a little stereo drive. Together, all of those parts only really happen in the chorus and the bridge, and they sound like this. I remember in a later version of this song, you'll notice there's a lot of low end in that Vera sound. And I can prove that to you with an EQ8. So if I play this here, all this low energy here, I wound up mixing that out. So I just got kind of the parts I need. That's later in the game though. And honestly, I don't think it's worth worrying about that stuff too much when you're in this creation phase, which is where I was at this point in the song. So the cool thing now is I've incorporated not only this card that's dedicated to Vera, but also these sounds that's actually her voice. So it's starting to get more and more special. I could have used probably any synth to do these melodic parts, but this is a point I really love to stress, is use the sounds around you. Use sounds that are unique to you. Only I was able to record the sound of Vera and use her in the track. And it adds this level of personalness and intimacy that I think really comes through in the music. It certainly makes the song mean a lot more to me that it's her voice playing those melodies rather than just some synthesized sound that, even if it sounded exactly the same, knowing it's her, it's almost like when I'm saying, show me some kind of sign, and then you hear those melodies, that's the sign. It's happening. So the signs are around you if you choose to see it. And then when we get to the chorus, it's adding in all those extra parts, but because it's that personal sound, it just makes the song mean that much more to me and gets me more excited about working on the song. So I really encourage you to find opportunities to use these kind of things in your music. It makes it more special. It brings more enthusiasm. It makes you inspired. It makes you want to do it and finish it, and gives you purpose. It's a lot of fun. So at this point, I've got all of the stuff I need, and now is really the scariest part for me, which is coming up with vocals. And that's what I've got to show you here. Let's clear the browser out of the way. I've got my vocal track here, and these are all the takes I did. So I did a bunch of takes. Not too many, mostly on the chorus to get that right. But the verses, I have a few here. I'll let you hear like just where it starts out, some of this blabbering. Before I do that though, I'll show you I'm using my Live Vocal Multi-Effect rack, which you can download for free. It uses Live 12 and allows you to do auto-tune, add harmonies, delay, reverb, a bunch of effects. I'm really just using some of the delay on this song, I think. In the interest of moving forward and fast for my vocals, I just grabbed this mic that's already connected to my table. It's the mic I use for the podcast. It's a great mic, I love it, Heil PR40. I could have probably set up a condenser that might, whatever. This is what was here. I did it for the scratch vocals, and it's what I wound up using for the lead vocals too, because I wound up liking the sound. And it's all run through this chroma console pedal right here, so that I've got sounds that I'm sort of stuck with. It's gotta be that way. You can't undo it. But that helps you move forward and make decisions. So keeping it simple and not overthinking it, in this case, again, like helped me get through the process a lot quicker. I'll let you hear a little bit of the gibberish I had. Let's see. And all you'll see it, I'm just another take. Right, so it's nonsense, but I'm looking for sounds. I'm looking for notes. I'm looking for where the melody's gonna land. And I think I had kind of the lyrics. Let's just see if we got the lyrics here. They say one day we'll see each other again, but can you show me a sign? So I got some of that there. It's kind of evolved. This is, again, still a rough sketch though, but I have words now. I've got melodies, and it really just happens by just blabbering, just trying to come up with stuff over and over. And I had the chorus part, which I can let you hear quick. Tell me the answer. That's the line. Tell me the answer. So tell me the answer is like kind of in response to this. They say one day we'll see each other again, but can you show me a sign? Tell me the answer. That's what I'm asking, you know? And I think that doesn't happen. I don't think I say those words if I don't have this kind of Vera sound going on along the way. Because to me, like, that's the sign, right? It says, can you show me a sign? And meanwhile, like, the sign is happening. The dog voice is going on in the background. And it's sort of like, you don't realize it. It's almost like maybe if there are other levels to existence, you don't know it until you get there, unfortunately. But we kind of look for signs and meaning in our life. And that's the way I'm starting to visualize this song at this point. So there is the sign there. It's the synthesized melody that's singing along with me, basically. And that's about where I wound up, I think, after the second session. So at this point, I'm going to open a new version of this project because I had an idea that I needed to try, but I didn't know if it was going to work. So I did a quick save as. I do this a lot. If I'm not sure if what I'm about to do is going to ruin everything, I do save as, make a new name for my track, and then work on it in that new project. This whole process is not very different than the way cartoonists work, where they start out with stick figures, they get them doing their poses and their movements, and then they start fleshing things out. They start adding details. But they get the whole image of the figure first. And I like to get that with my songs. I like to get the ideas, the skeleton of it put out, and then start adding the flesh and layering things on in a more step-by-step manner, rather than sticking with just one part of the song. Say like, it'd be like your arm, and building the skeleton, the muscles, the flesh, and everything, and then moving to the next part that's now nothing. So I gotta start with the skeleton and put the flesh on. I find I lose a lot of motivation because the part I worked on sounds so great and the next part I'm trying to make is like nothing. It doesn't add up. They don't connect nicely. There's no connective tissue, to continue that metaphor. So by doing this kind of slow iteration and just building the song up little by little, I find it comes together a lot easier. Okay, so what I have here open now is actually the final version of this track that I worked on. And something I like to do along the way as I'm working on a song is at the end of the day, I like to export a version of the track. That part of doing that is also a little hack to get me into arrangement view earlier, because you can't do an export unless you have stuff in arrangement view. So it forces you to get into arrangement view sooner. And I like to listen to what I've done the next day on the drive to work, or just working around the house or something, just to let it kind of permeate into me so I can hear it outside of the moments it was created in. While I was doing that, I learned something surprising. So I told you I'm running a lot of things through this Chroma console, so that meant my exports had to happen in real time. In Ableton Live, if you are going to export something that's running through outboard gear, Live has to process it in real time. So you actually hear the song playing as you're processing it. While that was happening, I just happened to have my guitar. It was the Jag thing, but I got this one here. So I was just sitting there as the song was playing along on my electric guitar without it being plugged in. Tell me the answer. You know, just kind of singing along. And unbeknownst to me, I still had this mic record enabled. And what I didn't know until this point was that if you have a track record enabled while you're doing a real-time export, that also gets printed into your export. So when I got done with the export and listened to it back, I actually heard myself singing this kind of like really distant acoustic, kind of, not acoustic, but it's on an electric guitar, so it's like acoustic sound. And it was something like this. I decided that sounded really cool, and it gave me a little moment here after the bridge into the last big chorus. And this is all just a happy accident because I didn't know it was doing that recording, but I heard it when I listened back the next day. So we've got this bridge here. I'll let you hear the bridge in its entirety maybe, because I didn't let you hear it with all the synthesizers that I added. And there's also, now I've got the vocals here too. So. So right there we have this moment of really low dynamics. It gets really quiet, really soft. And I wanted something, I wanted a moment in the song, you know? Something like when you're listening, you're just be like, boom, 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 you know? And that allows for this because at this point in the track, like right before in the bridge, it's kind of at maximum intensity. And I want a big chorus, so I named it Big Chorus. In order to get there though, I needed little chorus. This is a really important concept in your music, that you want changes in dynamics. You want to make things extreme, right? If you want something big, you need something little, because what is big? It's a relative term. Is Godzilla big? Maybe compared to me. Compared to the planet Jupiter, he's tiny, insignificant. So we need to set these things up in our music. And sometimes that does mean making sacrifices to, say, an earlier part so the next part has more impact. And in this case, it's stripped down as possible. I even recorded this part the same way I recorded it by accident. I just had this mic right here, just sitting there. And I think it might have even been run through the chroma console, because that's how I was doing my vocals. I just played it, just sang it. I've got like a few, looks like a few more takes of it over here, but that's all I wound up using. This is the highlight of the song when this all comes back. And I do a little accentuation of that with some nice guitar feedback squeals right here. And those are part of my guitar feedback pack. It was really convenient to just drag these in here. It was late at night. I couldn't just plug in my guitar and make a lot of noise, because that would upset people that are trying to live normal lives. But having these already pre-recorded really made a difference. And if I let you just hear the impact it has here. Now, it's like the equivalent of a white noise riser in electronic music. You know, take it out. I mean, it's still a lot of impact, I guess, but I really like that kind of like, you know, oh, something's happening kind of feeling. So another funny thing happened, again, kind of by accident, and it's right at the end here. I was playing around, and you can actually see these are copies and pastes, right? So I have those like bum, 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 those big like heavy hits that happen. And at the end, I wanted something interesting to go on, and I didn't know what, but I just decided to paste a bunch of those hits together and see what happens. So when you're at the last part of this song here, so right there, it's just like 7 of them. No reason for it to be 7. It was just how many times I pasted it, and it turned out to be 7. And what I liked about that, the way it worked out with the vocal, is I'm singing "Don't Leave Me Behind," and the music is kind of like unpredictable at that point as I'm singing, and I'm not really sure where it's going to hit. So there's this kind of disconnection between the rhythms that I really liked. And if you're following like the bar lines here, it doesn't even make musical sense really. The rest of the song comes back in, like we go back to that verse or outro on the 2 of this bar. So just to give you that context again. So it's a very odd timing thing and would probably be hard to do with a real band, but in here you can kind of fool around and try stuff out. And I just like the kind of, you know, unsureness of it. This song has insecurity to it. It has like questions to it. It's not stable. And that gives you this kind of instability that I'm kind of looking for here. When you have your sort of thematic elements of your track, you can start thinking about musical ways to represent that. And this song is asking a question. It wants an answer, and it doesn't really get it exactly. So this instability is accentuated through little things like that. It's probably worth mentioning that not everything you do makes it into the song. So this Telecaster part, even though it says Jag Stang here when I recorded it, that's how it named the clips, but I renamed the track to Telecaster. It's a different guitar. I had some parts in here that were kind of like mimicking the bass part. I'll let you hear it. In the end, I just kind of decided I didn't need it. I thought the space was nice because I do like the openness of that first guitar riff, but I felt like we kind of lost the Vera voices in that madness. That part, da 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 da. So that kind of got lost with that other guitar chugging away. So you take it out, and sometimes you have to kill your darlings a little bit. A lot of mixing for me is taking stuff away, and you can see where I've sort of chopped things out and deleted stuff that I decided didn't fit for one reason or another. Because my guitar parts were originally loops, I wound up re-recording them and playing them in again so that I could have a more kind of play through the song. Otherwise, you know, to have like your first verse and your second verse be the exact same recording gets a little boring. It's nice to have some variety in there. And I don't know how much you'd pick it out really, but like this guitar part is different than this guitar part, even though they're playing the same thing. There's different types of vibrato. I think that stuff matters, you know, don't be lazy and just, it's so easy to copy and paste things, but it makes a difference to go in there and just record it. And that's what I wound up doing, is recording through and dialing these things in. There's a little bit of cleanup here and there. For example, on the bass in these cuts, especially in the chorus here. You know, I just cut that little noise out right here. Because otherwise, it's not a ton, but I'll let you just hear it. If you press Option spacebar, you can have live only play back your selection. That's what I'm doing right here. Like, I don't know, I just don't think I need that. If I can just free that up a little bit, it just makes these cuts a little tighter. Especially on the bass, because there's a lot of rumble in there, you know. You'll see I left it in the guitars. Although I do think there was one spot somewhere towards the end, yep, that I decided to cut everything just because I wanted it to be dramatic. And that's after this little chorus happens. We got this little chorus, and then the big come in. I wanted this cut to really hit. But the rest of them, I want this noise. You know, there is some sort of life in there. I want it to sound like real instruments. You know, it's noise, but it's part of the band, you know? Part of the thing I'm trying to create here, so I left it in there. But to have one that's just like real tight, go for it. Let it happen. To further my committal to some of this stuff, I took the drums. After I got what I felt was like a decent mix on the drums here, you can see it here, I actually routed it out to my preamp. So it's going right into the preamp. It's a one-channel preamp, so I lose stereo image. So now my drums are actually in mono, and that is a sacrifice, but I think, like I'll let you hear, say right here. This is the original drums. Right, and here are the actual drums. They're a little bit lower in the mix, but they're just They're just like crunchy and powerful. And I think putting them in mono like that did free up some of my space for other instruments to live on the sides. I kind of like mono drums sometimes. I don't know how necessary it was to have them in stereo for this track, so I just went with it and, you know, lived with it. That's something you got to do sometimes, is just live with your decisions. And I'm glad I did. I think it added some charm. You know, you might be saying it sounds better, but it was just louder. That's really the difference. And I don't know, maybe objectively it is better, but in the context of the song, I wanted some crunch. I want kind of an energy to it, and I want some space for other things to exist on the sides, because I got all these synths panned out, my guitars are slightly panned, and of course I've got vocals. So as for the vocals, I did a couple takes. Let's see how many takes I did on this. No, that's not right, because that's the printed one. So I started here, okay? And I'll show you the takes. It's gotta be a ton. Yeah, here they are. So these are the takes on my vocals. I ran these vocals out into the chroma console. So I recorded these again and had them going through the chroma console and recorded them and printed them onto this vocal track. You can see this one is routed to the verse vocal right there. So that means it's listening to this particular track. And then I mute this track so we can hide those takes. And I got my verse vocals here. I did separate vocals for the verse and the chorus because I wanted some control over the different sounds there. The process was really the same. I recorded the chorus vocals, and again, just to show you, it takes some time. These are the take lanes. I suspect that I deleted some takes because I didn't get it in 4 takes or whatever this is. So I wanted to get it right as best I could, which is the hardest part for me. And those get printed onto this track. So you'll see there's no takes on this. Having control over the chorus vocals in a group and the verse vocals in a group is nice. So you can kind of ride them, bring them up a little bit, change the volumes if you need to. You can see like it looks like I'm singing louder in the chorus, and that makes sense because it's kind of a louder part. Peace of mind. And tell me the answer. Here are the chorus vocals. Tell me the answer. So what I did was 3 vocals here. There's 1 down the middle, and then there are 2 panned to either side. I don't remember if I did these through the chroma console or not. Probably tell you just by listening. Tell me the answer. I don't know. I did tune these though. These are tuned to about 80%. But I think they're just going through this. Let's see. Tell me the answer. Yeah. So that's what they sound without all this vocal multi-effect track. I want them to be a little thinner and a little more distant than the lead vocal. And under it is just a little harmony here. Tell me the answer. Looks like I tuned that one too. Tell me the but that gave this just a little bit of weight. Tell me the answer. So that's a 3-note harmony, like 3 different notes in that melody. I'll grab this, let's show you on the bass. It was A, B, C. But I wasn't sure if I wanted to do A, B, C, B. Right? Because the lead vocal does that kind of, that, so maybe they should do it together. But I wound up staying on the C for most of them, except for one. Since I wasn't so sure, I said, let me just have one, you know, one time. And I think that's right. One of these here, it might be this one, it might be the next one. Tell me the answer. So it's gonna be this one.
Tell me the answer.
So it goes down on there, on that one. Real subtle.
Tell me the answer.
That's staying on the C.
Tell me the answer.
And that one goes down. And it just gives it a little bit of a different vibe on that particular part there. At the end of the chorus, I don't think I mentioned this, I thought those cuts might get a little repetitive, right?
Tell me the answer, don't leave me behind.
So I straighten it out here. Here's the one with the harmony goes down. Same flavor thing. Here's the last cut. I think it's funny that you can sort of tell I didn't really know where to place that Leave Me Behind, but I like again, the kind of unsettledness of it. So to keep that last chorus interesting, I take the cuts out halfway through and it just kind of rides it out. I also bring in a few more synths here. So these synths didn't really play on those big bum, 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 bums, you know, so I let them play when it straightens out a bit. So there's one last detail I threw in here. This is a really small thing, but I have this sample of Vera barking, right? These two different recordings here. And I just threw them in there on these little upbeats inside this instrumental part after the first chorus. So I'm gonna crank them up so you can hear them. I'll just make them really loud. These two right here. In the context of the mix, they're much quieter, so it'd be more like this. You almost only hear them if you have headphones on, and it might even it just gives it a little movement. It's a little fun Easter egg for me to put in there. I like throwing things like that in there. You can see I had originally tried putting a lot of them in there, but I wound up doing that thing where I press 0 to disable them or deactivate, I should say. I just felt like it was overdoing it. It's nice to have it in there. Maybe somebody that's hearing it with headphones might just be like, well, what was that little thing? Maybe it makes them listen again, or I don't know. You might not ever notice it, but it's just a little surprise in there for you. So that is really the entire arrangement of the song here. At this point, it was mixing, and a lot of the mixing was done as I went, and since I committed a lot of the sounds along the way, it forced me to come up with new sounds that worked with the sounds I already had. And that's kind of a little hack I've learned along the way, is that if you've already got sounds that you're stuck with, the next sound you make has to fit with the sound you're stuck with. But if you have sounds you can change all the time, then the next sound you might really like, and you'll say, oh, this sound will work if I change the sound that I just did before. So now you start twiddling with this sound so that this sound fits, but then the sound you had over here before, now it doesn't work with the other two. And you keep going in these circles of adjusting things until they all fit. It can be frustrating and you lose the big picture. But I knew I liked my guitar sounds, I knew I liked my synth sounds, I knew I liked my drum sounds, I just committed them. So the next stuff had to fit. So it makes mixing a lot easier because you're sort of doing it as you go. But after a little bit of mixing, I bounced this to 2 tracks. And from there, I ran that onto my 8-track tape machine. And that gives it some cohesion, some tape saturation, and just kind of pulls the mix together. Yeah, I could probably use a plugin. You know, there's lots of tape saturation plugins. A lot of them are really good. And I'd have a lot more control over it too. But putting it on my tape machine, I'm kind of get what I get. You know, I can adjust the levels a little to adjust how much saturation I get. But it's more about, again, committing. So after I bounced that, I had my track here, and then I did a couple experiments. I ran it through the tape a few times, adjusting as I went, making sure like my levels were as good as I could get. And it looks like this is the one I settled on here. So I ran this tape version through just a little bit of ozone for mastering. I like to give it a little whirl with their AI mastering, their kind of mastering assistant, to see where it puts me, and then I wind up adjusting a little bit. But nothing major. I think it had like the bass cranked up like that, which was not necessary. I think, you know, I often tend to overdo it in these frequencies. That's a tendency I have, so it's interesting that Ozone found that out. And we got the maximizer and everything. It's nothing too crazy. I'm not trying to go nuts. I'm really just trying to get the level up. So once I've got a tape bounce, I like to just compare what I have. Here's my tape and here's my before tape. And I like to compare them. And a great way to do some A/B testing, if you go into key commands, command key, or click this button here, you select the thing you want to map. I just mapped it to the number 1 on my keyboard, and then come out of here, and then you turn one on and one off. And then when I press the 1 on my keyboard, I'm just switching between these two. So I can get a sense of the difference here. So maybe I will let you hear that. And you know what? You be the judge. I line it up as best I can. So let's start. Let's hear, this is the original, right? You can really hear it right in the beginning because I got this kind of drum fill. Listen to the top end on the tape. There's like a sound. And on the non-tape, it's much cleaner. Now, a lot of people might not like that. I like the tape sound. I like things to be a little vintage, lo-fi, dirty, messy. Clean, I'm not as much a fan of. So let's hear. This is tape. And I'll switch to non-tape. No tape.
They say one day we'll see each other again. But can you show
No
me
tape.
a sign?
Tape.
I don't know if I could go for another day.
No tape.
I need peace of mind.
So let's, no tape.
Tell me the answer.
Let me run that back now. This is with tape.
Peace of mind. Tell me the answer.
You can really hear the tape hiss in there. It's not subtle, but I like it. To me, it's like an environment. It's a world, you know? The digital version is really clean and sterile, and that can be a good thing for what I'm going for here. I want that dirtiness. You might really notice it as I'm A-Bing, because like you suddenly hear shh, then no tape, no shh. But as you listen to the song throughout, I think our minds kind of filter that away a little bit, and we just get involved in the overall feel of the track. I wonder how it might sound over here. We'll go back to this.
Hanging on and holding out. Tell me the answer.
Or no tape.
On and holding out. Tell me the answer.
I don't know. It's a little bit of a toss-up and a personal preference. For me, I like the tape. I like even just the fact that I took the time to do it. Sometimes that's part of it. Sometimes just the effort you put into things makes you like it more. I could certainly imagine a lot of people telling me like, no way, man, you're crazy. It's nicer, cleaner. But I think there's a texture to it that I just really enjoy, and I think it serves this style of music really well. So that's the track, Tell Me the Answer. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough discussion about it. I had a lot of fun making it. It's really fun to have a purpose and a direction, and doing the monthly music mission with the Music Production Club has been great. Using these cards was a lot of fun. And just knowing too that like you're not the only one doing a certain project. There were a bunch of other people working on this, and a lot of really cool tracks happened. And I've got a playlist of tracks from people that have been working on the monthly music mission that I hope you'll check out on SoundCloud, that I'll leave a link for. But again, thank you for watching. If you want to be part of this, you can join the Music Production Club, brianfunk.com/MPC. And if you want some stuff to help you make music, I got my book, The 5-Minute Music Producer. It's got a lot of activities you can do, 365. That'll just get you going. Starting songs, finishing songs, some philosophical things that I think help guide you and help you make decisions with your music. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.